You're not qualified, Mr. Hegseth. You're not qualified. You talk about repairing our defense industrial complex. You're not qualified to that. You have not earned your place as Secretary of Defense. You say you care about keeping our armed forces strong and that you like that our armed forces are meritocracy, then let's not lower the standards for you. You, sir, are a no-go at this station. Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no, did you lead an audit?
And the way
yes
my leadership
or no, did you lead an audit?
Stated,
yes or no?
Completely
what are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question. Yes or no, did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator, every
yes
part
no?
of my leadership
yes
of these organizations
yes
has
or
been
no,
misrepresented
I will
from
take
top
that as
to
a
bottom.
no. What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit.
The Senate chamber exploded into chaos as Pete Hegseth walked into one of the most hostile confirmation hearings in modern political history. Democrat senators came armed with accusations, insults, and endless attempts to paint Donald Trump's defense secretary pick unqualified. But for millions of Donald Trump Americans watching closely, something very different was unfolding. This was not just an attack on Pete Hegseth. This was an attack on every outsider who threatens the Washington establishment intelligence, leadership, military knowledge, and management experience, all while ignoring one crucial fact. Pete Hegseth has actually worn the uniform, served in combat zones, and lived the life of the very soldiers he would oversee. That reality struck a nerve because while career politicians were sitting comfortably behind microphones, lecturing him about leadership, Hegseth came into the room as someone who had spent years defending the military and speaking out against the failures of America's defense. Bureaucracy, take a look.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also, Secretary Mattis had to have this waiver as well. Mr. Hegseth, this hearing is about whether you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense, and one of the qualifications, to answer my colleague's question, is to actually win the votes of every member of this committee and to be confirmed by the United States Senate. And you need to convince us that you're worthy of that vote, because the people of the state of Illinois voted for me to be their senator so that I could cast that vote when it comes to picking who is going to be the next Secretary of Defense. This hearing now seems to be a hearing about whether or not women are qualified to serve in combat, and not about whether or not you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And let me just say that the American people need a SecDef who's ready to lead on day one. You are not that person. Our adversaries watch closely during times of transition, and any sense that the Department of Defense that keeps us safe is being steered by someone who's wholly unprepared for the job puts America at risk, and I am not willing to do that. With that in mind, Mr. Hegseth, I want you to try to explain to the American people, this committee, who have to vote for you, and to our troops who are deployed around the world, why you are qualified to lead the Department of Defense. We already know that you've only led as large as a 200-person organization. We already know that you so badly mangled a budget that after you left, they had to bring in a forensic accountant to figure out what went wrong, and that the largest budget you ever managed was about $18 billion. You know, that is about 51,560 times lower than the Department of Defense budget of $825 billion. $16 million is 51,568 times smaller than the defense budget. Please describe to me, Mr. Hegseth, you talk about DOD passing an audit. Please describe to me a time or an organization when that you led underwent an audit, because you say you're going to hire smarter people than you to run this audit. I'm not asking you to be an accountant. I want you to be able to tell me what kind of guidance will be given to those employees, what will happen whether or not you pass that audit. Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no, did you lead an audit?
And the way
yes
my
or
leadership
no, did you lead an audit?
Stated,
yes or no?
Completely
what are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question. Yes or no, did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator, every
yes or
part
no?
of my leadership
yes
of these organizations
yes
has
or
been
no,
misrepresented
I will
from
take
top
that as
to
a no.
bottom.
What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit. Nobody expects you to be an accountant, Mr. Hegseth. What we expect is for you to understand the complexity of this Pentagon budget process that is absolutely necessary to outfit our warfighters. Look, The Secretary of Defense is required to make quick decisions every single day with high-level information that's being provided for them. A Secretary of Defense has to have breadth and depth of knowledge. Right now, I am concerned that you have neither. Mr. Hegseth, what is the highest level of international negotiations that you have engaged in, that you have led in? Because the Secretary of Defense does lead international security negotiations. There are three main ones that the Secretary of Defense leads and signs. Can you name at least one of them?
Could you repeat the question, Senator?
Sure. What is the highest level of international security agreement that you have led? And can you name some that the Secretary of Defense would lead? There's three main ones. Do you know?
I have not been involved in international security arrangements because I have not been in government other than serving in the military. So my job has been to
no, the
lead
answer is no.
men
Can
and
you
women in
name one of the
combat.
three main ones that the
You're
Secretary
talking
of
about
Defense
defense
signs?
arrangements. I mean, NATO might be one that you're referring to.
Status of Forces Agreement would be one of them.
Status of Forces Agreement. I've been a part of teaching about Status of Forces Agreements.
But you don't
inside
remember to
Afghanistan.
mention it? You're not qualified, Mr. Hegseth. How can we ask these warriors to train and perform the absolute highest standards when you are asking us to lower the standards to make you the Secretary of Defense simply because you are buddies with our president-elect? And by the way, he has filed for bankruptcy 6 times. I'm not quite sure he's the kind of CEO you want to refer to as a successful businessman. Let me make it clear. You can't seem to grasp that there is no U.S. military as we know it without the incredible women that we serve. Women who've earned their place in their units. You have not earned your place as Secretary of Defense. You say you care about keeping our armed forces strong and that you like that our armed forces are meritocracy, then let's not lower the standards for you. You, sir, are a no-go at this station.
By the end of this explosive hearing, one reality became impossible to ignore. Pete Hegseth was never going to receive an easy confirmation process. Not because he lacks passion for the military, not because he lacks patriotism, and certainly not because he lacks the courage to lead, but because he represents something the Washington establishment has become deeply uncomfortable with change. From the very Donald Trump moment, Donald Trump selected Pete Hegseth as his choice for Secretary of Defense. Critics inside Washington immediately went on the attack. They did not see him as another traditional Pentagon insider who would quietly protect the system already in place. They saw someone capable of challenging it. And that is exactly why this hearing became so intense. Throughout the entire confrontation, senators questioned Hegseth's qualifications, his experience, his knowledge of international agreements, and his ability to oversee the largest military force on earth. They attempted to portray him as completely overwhelmed by the responsibilities of the position. But millions of Americans watching the hearing saw something very different unfold. They saw a man who had actually worn the uniform, a man who understands what military service truly looks like beyond conference rooms, talking points, and political speeches. They saw someone who spent years speaking directly to veterans, defending military values, and criticizing the failures of a defense system that many Americans believe has grown too political, too bureaucratic, and too disconnected from the troops themselves. And perhaps most importantly, they saw someone who refused to fold under pressure. Because, make no mistake, the pressure during this hearing was enormous. The attacks came nonstop. Questions about Pentagon budgets quickly turned into personal attacks on competence. Discussions about NATO became attempts to embarrass him publicly. Even conversations about military standards transformed into accusations that Hegseth somehow represented a lowering of expectations for America's armed forces. But through all of it, Pete Hegseth stayed in the fight. And that mattered to Trump supporters watching at home. Because to many conservatives, this hearing was never truly about whether Pete Hegseth could lead the Department of Defense. It became something much larger than that. It became another battle in the ongoing war between Donald Trump's America First movement and the political establishment that has opposed it from the very beginning. That tension became crystal clear the moment the hearing shifted from criticizing Hegseth to sync to video attacking Donald Trump himself.